Sweet home, Santa Barbara, where the skies are so blue. Sweet home, Santa Barbara, what's worked for me can work for you.
Welcome back, friends, to Sweet Home Santa Barbara with practical tips for selling and buying homes. I am your co-host, Jonathan Robinson. I'm with my co-host,
Scott Williams. And today we get to continue along, Jonathan, with Dave Thomas. We're going to have a conversation today about some of the things that he's run into in fixing up homes. If you recall, if you've seen him previously or heard him on the podcast, he has bought and sold personally 185 homes in the Santa Barbara area over the years. And that's the real master in my mind of a person who really knows what to do with a house when he wants to fix it up. We're here with Dave.
So welcome back, Dave. Obviously, you have all the knowledge and we have a lot of questions. So let's get started. You know, if somebody's buying a home or about to sell their home and they want to fix up the home quickly, easily, make some money, what do you think of as maybe the key things that they should do if they don't have a lot of time and money?
You know, probably the best thing to do would be to declutter the house, get a lot of personal things out of it. If they have the money to paint, and painting today is expensive, but if they have the money to paint, if they have the money to have the house staged, it generally shows better and sells quicker. But sometimes people don't realize their house looks as bad as it does. And when you broach the subject, you got to be careful you don't offend someone and say your house really looks terrible, it's never going to sell. So you got to be careful about it. But if someone asks you, Scott, for example, what do I need to do to get as much as I can without, rebuilding the whole place? I think you'd probably make those simple suggestions. If that might mean you have to move out of the house while you're selling it. But today, at least in this market, things are selling quickly. Someone better have a plan on where they're going before they put their house on the market, or else they're going to be homeless. So hopefully that will all work out. But I would just try to make it as clean as possible, lighten it up as much as you can. Most people like a light, airy house. So if it's dark, you can get rid of, old drapes, window shades, just things to make it a little more inviting when you step in. Solar tubes are really easy to add. If you've got a dark hallway or something, they're not real expensive. You can pop a few of those in. Just things like that, I think, can make a difference. Mm-hmm. Paint out, old cupboards, paint them white, just something that makes them look a little fresher.
I think you've mentioned something there that is relatively new to the marketplace. Previous years, people would always stay in a house when it was going to be sold. Right. We now have many, many more sellers that say, I'm moving out of here, bring the stagers in, get the coat of paint on the place. It'll look so much better. Yeah. We're going to sell it that way. That's new.
Yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting change. But I think it pays dividends. And for someone, Scott, that I know listens to you, you have a whole, network of people that you can bring in to prepare a property. And I know your sellers do much better if they listen to you and do them. I mean, you have a great track record.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let's talk about color for a second. Color can certainly highly influence the outcome of a property. And I remember years ago, you had several different colors that you used in home after home. And I thought, wow, those colors look great in those houses. How did you come across that? And what do you think is, what's going on with color with you these days, or how it used to be?
It's funny. I'm probably still sticking to some similar things that I just generally like on the condominium we're buying. We'll do the walls in a really light ivory. Because the condominium is a little bit on the dark side, and I think that'll give it a little blush of light. And then the ceilings are redwood, and we could either drywall them out or we could try to paint them, and I think it'd be simpler to paint them. So we're going to go over the redwood with and do all the doors and windows and trim in white with the ivory, and it makes for kind of a nice, airy, combination. And the ceiling, I think, we'll probably do just with a matte finish, so it's not just flat painted wood, which tends to look a little cheap. I think the matte will just give it a little bit of a glow without highlighting any imperfections, in the ceiling. So that's probably what we're going to do. In the kitchen, we're going to just paint the cupboards out white, change the surfaces, and put in high-end appliances, because that's one of the first things people see. And I think in that marketplace, we'll do a wine cooler and a Bertazzoni or Wolf Range, a really good-looking hood. The bathrooms will get upgraded. But I think that's basically what we're going to have to do. Get rid of the shag, of course. That went out, with, the 60s.
In the 70s.
Yeah, 70s. Yeah. And we're going to put in, wood floors. It has a solid wood staircase where it's plastered all the way up to the handrail, which darkens the place a little further. So we're going to strip the drywall off and do a horizontal wood railing, which looks a little more contemporary. And I think that'll open up the stairway and lighten it too. Just some simple tricks like that, but I think it'll make a difference.
So do you have any favorites for front doors? Whoops, sorry, Jonathan, we're talking to each other here.
Go on, Scott.
We've painted a lot of front doors red. One combination I've always liked is, is white with black shutters and a red front door. We've also done like light gray blues with darker shutters. And if you do, our daughter just bought a property that she painted. It's a rambling old ranch style house. She painted white. It's board and batten, and the shutters are in a really black green, and it's real attractive and showy. And with her white rail fences and horses in the pasture, it's a pretty inviting place now. And it was not when they bought it, to say the least. I've been over there for the last 4 or 5 months, full time, helping them coordinate this thing. But they're right up against Trump Ranch and can ride right in with their horses. And we're glad to have them as neighbors. So it was all worth it.
So I hear a lot about brightness and making something look more inviting that way. I have a specific question in that I have a kitchen which has all the dark cabinets, like probably 1970s. Luckily, our place doesn't have shag carpeting. But and I asked Scott about this, and he said, yeah, to fix up these cabinets, to paint them, or to do something, it's going to cost like $15,000 or $20,000. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Is there any cheaper way to make lousy looking cabinets look better?
We had a friend who just bought a place up in the valley, and she was on a real budget. And the cupboards in the kitchen were old and original. She just took the doors off and painted them out and just did open shelving in her kitchen. It's kind of informal, but she's got some neat things to display. And I really think it'll give it a little bit of a hip look without, remaking the wheel. But painting is expensive. It is. But it sounds like at least you weren't offended by the suggestion that it needed a shot in the arm. Way to go, Scott. You were tactful, it sounds like. But you got your point across. But it's shocking. If you're paying somebody $30 or $40 an hour with a little piece of sandpaper, I mean, it can really add up. There's no getting around it. So I understand your reluctance, but Scott could probably tell you what the differential would be. If you spend the 20, you might get 40 back. And in that case, you better spend the 20.
Well, it's less expensive to paint than to put in a new kitchen.
It certainly is. Yeah.
Well, you have had to deal with sort of the tricks of the trade of how, painting instead of putting in a kitchen. Think about other parts of a house where you might do things to really improve a house. Do you have any of your favorites of things to do?
I think one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to polish the 1-carat diamond, which we used to say. In other words, you get a smaller property, you reconfigure the whole thing. You don't add a square inch to the place. You juggle things around. Someone walks in and go, I think I'd really rather have the sink. Don't you think it'd look nicer if maybe it was across the room? And, they look at the bathroom and go, I think I'd really rather have it over here. They get into all these huge changes, but they haven't added any real value to the property. And they wonder why they break even or lose money. So if I'm going into a situation, I look for the most creative ways I can to work with what I've got. Moving plumbing and reconfiguring a property isn't probably going to pay dividends. If you could convert a garage and pick up 400 square feet of house and add a carport for $20,000, you probably are going to get your money back on that. I think if there are easy ways to expand something, remember one time we bought an old property by Oak Park that had a huge attic. It was just waiting for a staircase and a master suite upstairs. And it wound up not being that involved to do because the space was already there. I remember going down to a salvage company in Los Angeles, and I walked in and said, I'm looking for a staircase from a 1920s house, because that's what I've got in Santa Barbara. They said, we've got just the thing. So I picked it up, brought it home, threw it in. The place looked completely original. When we added the staircase, it looked like it had always been there. And I know we increased, I think we doubled the value of the house when we sold it because we had added something to it. But you really want to try to work with what you have. I mean, knocking out a ceiling, vaulting a ceiling, maybe removing a wall if it's not a bearing wall, can really add a lot of value to a property. I know some people, I just checked their house out just day before yesterday. They bought a tract house in Goleta, and they are reconfiguring the house on the same footprint, and they're spending a lot of money. And in my opinion, they're not going to get much for it. What they did, you walk in the front door, there's a living room, and then behind a wall, is a family room. And then the kitchen is compartmentalized off to the left. And I'm thinking, why don't you just take out this wall and vault the ceiling and open the kitchen to the family room? And then when you step in the front door, you're looking right through the house, right straight through to the garden. You have volume. You've opened the kitchen up. It's what everybody wants. I mean, do that. They will spend more money doing the wrong things, in my opinion, and then wonder why they don't like the house. But I keep my opinions to myself, and unless someone asks, I probably wouldn't volunteer. But I mean, there are things like that, but I try to approach it as creatively as I can, spend the least amount that I can, and because the bottom line is still something you better keep focused on. And I think that's the best way to get it. I also, in kitchens, often I will use prefab cabinets. I'll go down to like HD Supply in Oxnard, and you can buy them right off the shelf. And, I'll add molding, on the side. We can add crown molding on the top of the cupboards. We can cut holes in a couple of the doors and put glass in. But we can work with something that's easy to buy and inexpensive. I have some friends who just bought a place that they're redoing in the Valley, and they went to a cabinet maker and spent a fortune having white cupboards made that look exactly like the cupboards I just bought. And I know they spent 5 times as much as I did. And I thought, they're not going to get that back. So I think wherever you can cut corners like that, you're going to still have a quality cupboard, but you're going to spend a fraction of what someone will spend if they go and have them professionally made. They won't look any different.
So I hear you be smart with your money and do things that will actually get you money back. We have more questions for you in terms of specific things that people can do, but we're going to leave that for another podcast. How can people learn more about what you do, Scott, and your association with Dave and your fixing up and selling houses?
Well, I'm Scott at scottwilliams.com. It's best to get hold of me through email. And if you'd like to talk to Dave about maybe buying a project that you'd like to sell to him and have him fix it up, contact me and we'll get you in contact with Dave.
So thank you for listening. And we're going to have another episode where we ask Dave more questions and he can give us his expertise on how to buy, fix up, and sell houses. Till then, thank you for listening to Sweet Home Santa Barbara.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app. If you know someone preparing to sell their home, please tell them about the podcast. Visit scottwilliams.com to contact me and download the 2 free e-booklets, Is My House Saleable Now? And How Not to Buy a Money Pit. Thank you for listening.